This is Python's Paradise, and this is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. Folks, it is May 14th, 2021. And let me see, when was it? It was a few years ago. Dates may mess me up, but I had a guy named Bob DeSimone on the show from Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. And he told me about his brother Tom, whom I had the pleasure of having on the show today. Tom DeSimone. I'm hoping I pronounced your last name right. Tom DeSimone, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's DeSimone.
DeSimone. You
Yeah,
know what?
being Italian, we pronounce every consonant, every vowel.
DeSimone. Okay, my apologies. I messed that up, but I messed it up with him too. But I think I don't know whether I think it was 2017. I think I had him on. I
Mhm.
think, but still in touch with him, and yeah, he told me about working on some of your films.
Right.
Um, I guess my first question would be between you. I know your brother is into music now,
He
and
always was a drummer. Yeah,
yeah,
he still
uh,
is.
yeah, absolutely. Um, but in terms of film, did you two always gravitate toward like together about
No,
movies?
I always, since I was as far back as I can remember, I was making home movies at 10 years old on 8 millimeter. It was all I ever wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And he was more interested in drumming. My parents bought him drums when he was very young because that's what he wanted, much to everyone's regret because he practiced in the house. Then I came up to California to follow my career. And then after he graduated high school, he was still drumming in little bands. And I said, come on out. Your chances are better on the West Coast. And I introduced him to some music people. But that was always just, a struggle. And then he was doing a stand-up comedy, which was kind of successful. And he got a couple of gigs on TV doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So then, because he was relaxed in front of the camera and funny, I gave him a part in a movie, and it got him a SAG card. And then after that, he started doing films too. So he's done it all.
Mm-hmm.
Right now he's just back to doing his drums.
Yeah. Well, how are you handling the current COVID situation? We're right now in what you call the yellow phase here, which is next phase is green, and green is home free. But I've been going back to the movie theater since last July. It's funny because I can't get back in the station that I'm affiliated with, but I get to the movie
Well,
theater.
just yesterday, California got the green light to throw away our masks and get together whenever the hell we wanted to. And I was at a movie yesterday simply because I continued to go as soon as they opened. But
Mm-hmm.
most they go to art houses, and you go in for a matinee, and there's four people in there. It's easy to keep your distance, and every other row is taped up. But as of yesterday here in California, we're doing so well that places are lifting all the restrictions, and they're saying you can go without a mask indoors and out. Now, whether everybody, some people are saying it's too soon or they feel uncomfortable. I can understand feeling uncomfortable. I'm still, if I go to the gym, I'm going to wear my mask because people are sweating and spitting, And but if I sit in a movie theater, or restaurants haven't required us to wear a mask for some time, except when we go in and leave because you're walking by other patrons. But as soon as you're at a table, you're able to take your mask
Mm-hmm.
off. So things are better. Plus, in California, it's mostly outdoor living. It's different than the East Coast or other places, but we're outdoors all the time. In fact, most restaurants here in Palm Springs have outdoor dining. So it hasn't been a problem for a while as far as getting together without masks.
Yeah. Have you been vaccinated yet?
I'm sorry.
Have you been vaccinated
Oh
yet?
yeah, both. Oh yeah, that rule applies to people who've been vaccinated, and of course, there's no way to find out for sure. But they're saying if you've been vaccinated, you're perfectly safe in mixed groups, and but just be cautious. You don't want to be around the
Mm-hmm.
gang of kids, or I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't been vaccinated yet. I got to make that appointment because I know I'd like to travel again at some point, So, but
Well,
yeah.
Certain places here require that you be vaccinated. I mean, I have a card. You know, when you get vaccinated, they give you a card and they stamp it. And both mine are checked off. Now, we haven't been told to carry it with us yet. I've got mine laminated and it's in my wallet, so that in case anybody says, you know, you can come in, I can at least flash it, you know. But as far as work goes, I haven't worked in years, so it hasn't affected me. But I have friends who are in the television industry, and they're getting more relieved that they can ease up on the restrictions, you know.
Yeah.
The worst thing
Well,
is it's a craft service table now.
yeah. I work as a cleaner. That's what I do for work. I do this because I really enjoy it. You know, I'm a volunteer at the station I'm affiliated with, so this is something I fell into just by accident, and I enjoy it. I never thought I'd be talking to people from all these movies, you know. But when I work as a cleaner, I work mostly back shift for the most part, and I'm usually but the only one in the building, so you know, I can, it's easy to social distance,
Yeah,
you know, but yeah, I'll be glad when this whole thing just goes away, you
yeah.
know. Yeah.
So it will if everybody gets vaccinated.
Well, that is my plan here at some point here. I got to make the appointment for it, so yeah. I guess they just announced that people under 50 can start getting vaccinated, and I'm going to be 49 in July, so
We're vaccinating kids here, 12 to 18.
yeah.
They started with the old timers, and I didn't get mine. You know, first they started with old timers who were invalids or hospitalized, and then it went to people 65 and over. Then it went from uh, like 20s to 55, and now it's 12 to 15. So pretty soon we'll be in, you know, in vaccinating kindergarten kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're testing to make sure everybody will be okay. So,
Yeah.
but it's become part of our life. It's weird, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. But anyway, on to happier things.
Yeah.
I sat and I listened to the commentary track on Hell Night last night. Just give myself a refresher, and can you believe this film's celebrating its 40th anniversary, you know?
I can believe it.
We are going to backtrack on some of your other films, but I'm going to highlight with Hell Night here because I would have been 9 years old when that came out. I didn't see it at 9 years old. Actually, I didn't see it until just the last few years, you know? And in
It
fact,
holds up pretty well. It holds up pretty well for a
yeah.
40-year-old film, I think. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you know it's funny. Here's one thing I'm going to say. Listened to a podcast that gave it a really really bad review recently, but as I was watching it, like they're talking about the characters being totally cardboard, but I don't quite grasp that. I'm going to tell you one thing I loved. I absolutely loved in this movie. In fact, it's one of my favorite things about it. Evidently is that Timothy Van Patten, who I loved in Rock and Roll High School, he plays, you know, the guy dressed up as Robin Hood who's having sex with the girl. Of course, his girlfriend is killed off. But I like the fact that he's not killed off, at least right away. I
Mhm.
love that whole venture where he gets over the gate, goes to the police station, tries to get help, ends up having to come back because it's nobody believes him. So he grabs the gun at the police station there and hightailers back and comes back. I got to admit, I think that did a lot for his character, especially since he ended up uh, killing one of the creatures. You know.
We think it's the creature in the
Yeah.
pictures. You know, the big
I
shock when we find out it isn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that whole sequence because in a lesser movie, he would have been just killed off after his girlfriend
Yeah,
was.
one by one. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that whole sequence where he's running off and trying to get help. I think that that's why I say I don't think the characters are cardboard. I think that did I think that was actually clever that
Well, let
you
me ask,
bypass.
what teen slasher movie have we seen where the characters are really three-dimensional and Shakespearean actors? I mean, come on, it's a teen slasher movie. You know,
Yep.
what do they want? I mean, I think making Linda somebody who was adept at fixing cars and stuff like that,
Hmm.
add a little more,
Yep. I enjoy this movie, but I know when I first saw it, I was like, the part I was most taken with is Timothy Van Patten, not Timothy Van Patten, Vincent Van Patten. Timothy was in class of
Timothy was
1984. Oh, there's a lot of Van Pattens. I'm a big class of 1984 fan, so I get them mixed up. But Vincent Van Patten of Rock and Roll High School. Um, I love that whole sequence where, because I think that did more for that character, you know, to to do that whole sequence. Was that in the original script?
Yeah, yeah, that was. He escapes, comes back. You know, we wanted to play up the danger of trying to get over the gate. You know,
Yeah,
which is funny because we could all scale it if we tried.
yeah,
You know, we put that gate up at the location. It wasn't a real gate. We just rigged it. You know, and that scene of him climbing and getting cut. It was a lot of delicate stuff. But he was basically standing on a ladder next to the top of the fence. You know, and
yeah. It kind of reminded me of the Omen there. Whenever the
yeah,
dogs are come at them, and Gregory Peck comes up and it just kind of spikes him a little bit there on the arm, and he manages to get off. Yeah. No, I think that was clever. I actually think this was a better written horror film than it often is given credit for. So
mhm.
I had a great time watching this last night after work, and it put me up later than I should have been, but I was like, "Oh, I want to just give myself a brush up before the interview, and
They have nightmares.
yeah, yeah, and it was a great commentary track, I gotta say, yeah,
I
I had
enjoy.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, Hell Night was after Chatterbox. This like your first?
Chatterbox was my first with
Yeah, but
this.
was
Yeah.
this your first commercial film?
Well, Chatterbox was. That was really
Chatterbox was
yeah,
okay.
yeah. And then at the time when I was working with the producer, I said to him, if you ever get a good horror script, I'd love to do one. So he
Hmm.
said, okay. So it was a short time after that. He called me. And he had already done a TV movie with Linda Blair called Born Innocent. So they had a good working relationship.
Hmm.
He said, I have a script, a good script by a new writer, and Linda's agreed to do it. And I said, absolutely. So that's how it came about.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, enjoyed this movie a lot. It had a, I gotta say, the location
Great
was
look.
great. Yeah, I love the
That's
fact.
because it was out of town, which
Yeah.
added a lot of money to the budget. Which because when you're like 3 miles away or something, you have to put the crew up in the cast, and we were way more than 3 miles. We were like around 100 miles away. So we took over whole Howard Johnson's motel, and just camped there, and worked from like 4 in the afternoon until 6:30 in the morning, and they would bus us back to the motel, and we supposedly to sleep, but you can't sleep in the middle of the day, and then you're getting up at 4 to go to work. So it was a tough shoot. That because it was all at night too. That was the other, except for the interiors, it was all nighttime shooting, and it was cold. It was in November, so
Hmm. Well, I think, like I said, I think the location added to it, gave it a nice gothic kind of feel to it, and I love the fact you start off with this loud shrieking scream and this close up of this girl, and yet it's a wet t-shirt contest, which was an interesting little segue, a little false alarm there.
one take too. That's a 2.5 minute take. I wanted to try, and they promised me they wouldn't put titles over it. I said, no, don't. I don't want all this buried in the title. Oh no, we would never do that. Then of course that's the first thing they did. So.
Yeah. So was that in the script, or was that something you come up with
It just script says we start at a frat party.
okay,
So
where did the idea, because when you hear a scream for a horror film, first thing you're thinking is, oh, something's
murder.
bad's happened. But no, it's a scream of somebody at a what T-shirt contest. So where did that come from?
Well, we were sitting around, the producer and I, and talking about, we had a lot of these powwows, the writer, producer. There were two producers, Irwin and Bruce and myself. We would
Hmm.
we would kick around, because I had a lot of ideas. That whole ending with the car, that wasn't in the original script. That was because he had her in the original script. She gets over the fence somehow and gets the car started and then opens the gate. I mean, it was a very nothing ending. I said, no, we need to go out with a big finish. So I
Yes.
had the idea of putting him on the roof of the car, and then getting away that way. So the scream, I think one of the producers said, why don't we start? Because I begged them early on to let me start with a murder, like up at the house, but not know where we're at the house with one of the kids or somebody in the car rigging something and gets killed. And we don't know where we are. And then we cut to the frat party and then go back to the house and figure out, okay, so that way when they get there, we'd already know it was very dangerous because we've seen somebody get killed. But they
Mhm.
didn't want to go with that. They wanted to start with the frat party. So we decided to start with the scream at this frat party.
I think that would have been a great idea. The
Yeah,
way,
you
yeah,
see a kid in the dark tinkering with something and it gets, whatever, and gets killed and we don't know where we are. And then we could have cut to the scream at the scrap.
yeah.
For some reason they didn't like that idea. So, and I was new. That was only my second film, and those days I listened to producers.
Well, it's interesting. This I just learned recently. This was the last film for Campus International, which of course was famous for making the original Halloween. Of course, you
Yeah,
got
that was Irwin.
Erwin Yabron's as part of this, and they had some interesting cult films that they had produced.
Yeah, they did something
Yeah,
Black Blood Friday or Black Friday or I don't know.
yeah, and the Tourist Trap, and
Yeah, that was Irwin's specialty. Yeah. So we were happy to have him on board. But I
mm-hmm.
had never seen Halloween. I still haven't seen Halloween, if you can believe it. I know it's hard to believe, but
I love the original Halloween. I think it's one of the greatest. I don't even know if I even consider it a slasher. There's so little blood in it.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
No, same with this one. We
Yep.
wanted to stay away from the slasher aspect. We
Mm-hmm.
didn't want all that gore. I figured let's work on tension instead.
Yeah. No, I
So
love.
my cat is attacking the computer.
Yeah, I know. I've got one, but he's asleep right now. But no, I love the original Halloween. I recommend it if you get the chance. Um, but yeah, they did have some success, and then Campus went away. I don't know the full story behind that. Do you know the scoop on that?
I've never even seen Freddy's Nightmares, and I did 11 of those, or 6 or 8. I don't know. Nightmare on Elm Street.
Mm-hmm.
There was a TV series called Freddy's Nightmares. And
Yep.
after Hell Night, they brought me in and hired, and I did a whole bunch of them, but I never saw the original. I was drawn more to the old classic horror films and
Mm-hmm.
things like Exorcist and
Mm-hmm.
The Omen, but the teen slasher things didn't interest me that much because they were pretty formulaic and all the same. And it seemed they were just there for the gory murders, and we had discussed that. I said, I don't want this to be just a picture about guts coming out. Let's have some character. Let's have a plot. Let's have some mystery. So,
Absolutely. Well, we got to talk about Linda Blair because you've worked with her in at least a couple of films here.
no, this one. Well, Savage Streets. I brought her in on that, but I left the picture before we started shooting. So
Why'd you leave the picture? Do you want to go into that?
yeah, but it was simple. The script when I got, I had done a picture called Concrete Jungle for
Mm-hmm.
Billy Klein, and he called me. He had another script, and it was along the same lines, bad girls and violence. And I read the script, and I wasn't all that thrilled about it. It bothered me that the opening scene was a gang rape of a deaf and dumb girl. I said, geez. I said, it's bad enough it's a gang rape. I said, does she have to be deaf and dumb? Can't we? I felt a little queasy about filming something like that. And he said, oh, no, it's good because, well, that's the script and the money people want. And I said, all right. So I resigned myself to doing it. And but then as we were prepping the picture, I kept getting the money people were in New York. I never met them. We only talked on phone. And one of them there fancied himself a writer, and he kept faxing over pages that he had written, and the pages kept coming in, and I kept adapting them, and they were getting, I thought, a little worse and worse. And then I got to the point where some of the stuff really bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was having trouble prepping this in my mind, how I was going to do a lot of it. So we came down to casting, and I brought in Linda. She said she'd love to do it. And I put my brother in. My brother, he plays the teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were getting close to, finalizing everything. And we brought in actors to read for the male lead. I can't remember the characters now. And there was one actor who had some pretty good credits, and he had a TV series for a while. It was fairly quasi well known. I don't even recall his name now. So we talked about it. So we sent him the script. We said, we want to have you on board. He was thrilled. So that night, the phone rang. I was here at home, and it was him. And I said, oh, hi. And he said, hi. He said, listen, I just read the script. I said, yeah, what do you think? He said, there's no way I can do this picture. And he said, frankly, I don't know how you can either. And he hung up. And I thought, wow. I said, for an actor to turn down a lead in a picture. And I thought, and I tossed all night, and I thought, he's right. Why am I doing this? There was so much about it I disliked and was uncomfortable with. I thought, what can I bring to it? I didn't want to go to the set every day and be agonizing over. So I called Jack the next morning. He was the producer, Jack Cummins, and we'd worked together on Concrete Jungle and also Reform School Girls. And I told him, I said, I'm going to bow out now. I don't care if they, sue me or let's talk about, but I just don't want to do this thing. But Billy was very good about it, Billy Fine. He understood. He said, all right, if you're that sensitive. And I said, well, I said, it's too distasteful, some of the stuff. I don't know. I've never seen the picture, but this guy had written in a scene where the guys chase the girls into an old building and he puts his dick through a glory hole and she cuts it off with a straight razor. I thought, come on, I don't know if it's in the picture or not. Anyway, but the payoff was when we were scouting locations on that picture, we were in part of the city and there was this old abandoned building that had the roof had kind of caved in. At one time it had been a church, like a little chapel.
Mm-hmm.
And we went in. I was with the cinematographer, the sound man. We always scout locations together. And it was a great location. It had so much character. There wasn't an altar, but there was an area that used to be an altar, kind of steps going up to it. And part of the roof had caved in and light was streaming in. It just had a great look to it. And I said, I want this location. And I was going to do this scene where the boy and the girl whose names had their first fall in love scene. So I had mentioned, well, the producer called me on the phone, or the money guy, and how could I be so disgusting to have a sex scene in a church? What kind of guy was I? I said, it's not a church. I said, it's an abandoned building but still, I mean, I can't believe and yet he's having people get cut with straight razor, getting the dick cut up. It was this conflict of what was tasteful and what wasn't. And he was trying to say that I was being disgraceful for having a couple making love in an old church. And yet he's, raping a deaf and dumb girl with glee. So I just said, no, I can't be with these people, so.
Yeah.
But I did cast Linda in that, so.
Yeah, it's interesting because
I know the picture's well liked and it's a cult favorite, but I couldn't bring myself to go see it. I probably should get a DVD and look at it.
it's been a while since I've seen it. I know it was directed by Danny Steinman, who of course directed Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, that your brother was in. And of course, speaking of reformed schoolgirls, Tiffany Helm, who I've had on the show as well. Actually, I just heard from her recently.
Danny met my brother on Savage Streets, and then when he did Friday the 13th, he brought him onto that. So
yeah.
They had fun together,
What was your impressions of Danny?
I never met him.
Never met him? Okay.
No, once I left the picture, I had nothing to do with it, and I didn't really care. I went on to other stuff.
Well, what about Tiffany Helm? Was that anything to do with the fact that she had worked with your brother, or was that just coincidence?
No, we had a casting director on the picture, and they just bring people in and we read them. I didn't even know she was in Savage Street. I think she may have mentioned.
No, she was in Friday the 13th Part 5 with your brother. Yeah.
She may have mentioned, that she worked with my brother, but I don't recall.
Yeah, she was pretty cool in that movie. Yeah. Well,
Reform School Girls, on the other hand, is a picture I had great fun with. I mean, I remember driving to the set every day, anxious to get there, which is unusual because usually you're driving to the location in the morning. and you get knots in your stomach, like about how's the day going to go, and what am I facing this day? But this is a picture that I couldn't wait to get to the set. It was so much fun making that picture, and everybody on the picture was having a great time because we knew we were just spoofing, and things were way over the top, like that girls' dormitory. You would never see a dormitory like that in a report, or those outfits. You know what I mean? So we just decided going and let's just go crazy and make the craziest picture we can. And some people see it that way and they get it. Other people don't. But
Well, let's talk about Linda Blair for a minute. I loved, of course, famous for The Exorcist, loved her in that. Talk about working with, what was your first impressions when you first met her?
well, met this sweet little girl, and when you've seen her in I had seen her in The Exorcist, of course, and I think the sequel too. I saw her in that, and the TV show Born Innocent. I saw that where she was a little tougher, but still she
Yeah.
was a victim in that movie. But she was sweet. We hit it off very well, and we got along. And she was easy to work with on the set, never late. We had a little problem with the wardrobe. She was I'm not talking out. She was a little heavy then when we did the picture. She had put on a few pounds, and they had asked her to lose some weight. So, and the costume department came up with this dress. It was made out of this very rare, very expensive velvet, antique velvet, and it was hard to get. So we had to make two costumes, of course, because you rolling around and falling, and so we had to be very careful because a couple of times the seams came apart of the costume. But she was fine. She was very close to Bruce, the producer, and he was on the set every day, so we didn't have any problems there. And she was always letter perfect with the script. I never had to worry about that. We discussed the character in advance,
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going into the picture at the very beginning when we had our first meetings. She said, "I don't want to be just the victim. I don't want to be the girl that's always being chased." So we decided to build up her character. That early scene where she talks to the kid about she and her father used to work cars and all that. And we made her be the one at the end to save the day rather than the boy, because she didn't want to just be the pretty girl, being chased.
It had something that I don't see much of anymore, and I miss it. I love the fact that, and of course, spoilers here, but still, it's 40 years old. I love the fact that she is the sole survivor. You
Yeah.
know, I'm getting tired of these horror films that have a male and female survivor because it's like isolation. Like one of the reasons why I like the whole idea of Final Girl is because yeah, I find it scarier.
Mhm.
You know, I
Yeah.
I
When
know
she
that
last one, yeah.
I find it's a little more secure when there's two of them.
Mhm.
I love the fact, especially when she was after Peter Barton's character
Goes out the window.
goes out the window, she's by herself.
Yeah. Yeah.
She has to
Well,
deal with
about her all through the picture, she makes a lot of the big decisions when it's just the two. She's the one that decides to go down into the bowels, after the guy comes up out of the rug. She says, "I'm
hmm
going down there." And I remember seeing it at a theater one time, and people say, "No," people yelling, "Don't go down, fool." They would call, "Girl, you're a fool." And then of course when he injures himself, she carries him through the rest of the picture, literally on, holding him up and rescuing, which by the way was a real accident. He really,
yeah.
really injured his foot.
hmm
But
But
she was the strong one. She was the one that brought it home. That's what she
yeah,
wanted.
yeah. And like I said, I know the maze, I guess, was brought into it, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, was that kind of a reference to The Shining, or was that just something that you just came up with?
Was this before The Shining?
This is
Maybe it
after The Shining.
was. No, no. It was just he had written in a maze, and
hmm
so we just had the art department bring in all these fake hedges, and we configured them, and laid them out, and that was it.
Yeah, because
Thing coming up to the floor was my idea, coming up under the rug, and we had to build a special set for that because we had to put an actor under there that he could rise up. So we did that on the stage. That wasn't in the house.
I got to admit the coming up under the rug. I thought that scene worked so well. I thought it was very creative,
People scream
and
because they keep saying, turn around, in the theater when you go. Yeah, because it
yeah.
takes a long time to get up.
Where did that idea come from?
I don't know. I was trying to think of ways to kill these people without, like the turning the kid's head on the roof was an idea I had too.
Hmm.
Because the writer just had them, grab him and said, and then he kills him. He didn't describe the murders. The head coming off, that was my idea as well. And that was a big disappointment, the first murder,
Yeah.
because maybe you've heard the story about Jenny, what we did to do that scene, and then it was cut. Because when he grabs her and he swings the axe and cuts her head, I said to them, in movies, when we see somebody's head cut off, we always see the head go rolling across the floor. And I said,
Hmm.
I want to do something else. I said, I want him to hold her. And when he cuts the head off, I said, I want the body to fall away and him still holding the head, still screaming. Because, in the old days, supposedly when they killed people in the revolution, they would hold the head up after, and the head was still alive, and people in the crowd would jeer at them. So it was a horrifying. So I said, I want to see her still screaming until. So we rigged this platform behind the wall. We put a hole in the wall. She had to lay on her stomach and put her head through, and then keep her head up. And we built the neck out of mortician's wax, and then put the dummy body. Oh, there's your cat.
Yeah, my cat's come. He can
So we
jump
rigged,
right up here.
we rigged the whole gag so that when the axe, hits it and the body falls away, and we stayed on her head screaming. It worked perfectly. It took us hours. But afterwards, when we cut it together, they said, "Oh, it's too gruesome. We'll never get an hour." And no, we can't. And they cut it out. So I wish the footage somehow disappeared. I wish we had that footage. So that
Yeah.
one I thought up. The rug came, twisting the guy's head around. I thought up. So I mean, pretty much all of the murders were my idea.
Well, at least the parrot survived.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't know where that actor is. When we all got together to do the anniversary edition, we couldn't find Jimmy Sturdivant. We don't know. We checked with SAG. Nobody had any record of him. He just disappeared. Maybe he left town and went back home or something. So
Yeah.
everybody else was anxious to get together.
Hmm. My cat is trying to steal the spotlight here.
Mm.
Uh, yeah. Some of that stuff was really, really creative. And of course, I know the story about the candles. They had to keep due to editing the candles.
That was the biggest time. I mean, they should have gotten an Oscar for that because they really had to be on top of it, because we had hundreds of candles and you shoot out of sequence. So every time we would get ready to do a scene, there was this mad scramble in the script and the prop department. What time of day is this? What day is it? How long have they been burning these candles? And we were constantly shuffling candles in and out all over the mantelpiece. It was a major project.
Yeah.
But it worked.
No. Yeah, I didn't know that until I listened to the commentary last night, and I was like, that would have been very time consuming to
It
do
was.
that. There's
So every time we'd say cut and blow them out, the set was full of smoke and we'd have to air everything out. So.
there was candles all over the place.
Well, Mac and I, the cinematographer, Mac was a brilliant cinematographer. He was Swedish and he had done a picture of Sweden that was quite famous, I Am Curious Yellow.
Hmm.
And he and I went out to the location ourselves. And we had, we discussed the look. I wanted that Gothic look. And that's why they're in costumes. Originally it was just a frat party. And I said, no, I don't want this picture with this location to have them running around in t-shirts and jeans. I said, let's put them in costumes. And we came up with the idea to make that frat party a costume party. And that
Yep.
way we could dress them the way we wanted. So, and I think that's why the picture today is kind of timeless as far as the look, because you have an old Gothic look. You don't have anything modern in it, like a motel room or anything. And then you have these kids in period costumes. So it could be any time.
That really worked. I like the fact that it was a costume piece. I think that was something that if made today, that would be ignored.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
But when
think
you look at that location, I saw that house and I thought, I can't have Linda running around in jeans and a t-shirt. I want her in a Gotham kind of looking thing. And, it just seemed to be in my mind the way to go.
absolutely. Well, talk about the rest of the cast. We talked about Linda Blair, Peter
Well, Linda,
Barton,
getting
huh?
back to Linda, we were shooting during the holidays. We had Thanksgiving there on location
Yeah.
at night, sitting eating off paper plates. But when we took a few days off for Christmas, and she, instead of just taking her time off, she threw this big party at her home for the cast and crew and everybody, which was really sweet.
Mm-hmm.
So we all got together and gave each other little gifts and stuff like that. So it was nice. No, she was a real sweetheart and game for anything. You know, I mean, she took those falls herself, and she did all the running and falling and stuff like that. We didn't. I think we had a double climbing the ladder. I think that was the only time. And she went up about maybe 10 feet, but to get really high to the roof, we used a double. But she did that fall off the ladder and all the other stuff.
Mm-hmm. No, and Peter Barton, of course, went on to do again Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
Right.
3 years after. He,
Well,
of course, yeah.
I was gonna say you probably heard of the commentary that he didn't want to do the picture. We had
Yeah,
yeah.
Linda Blair, was it Linda Blair had to went and
We
convinced
all
him to do it.
begged him. Yeah. Well, what happened was he was on callback for the Zeffirelli Romeo and Juliet, which
Mhm.
went to Leonardo, and he was sure he was going to have it because he had done a couple of callbacks. And then when he didn't get it, he was like through with acting, you know, that whole thing. And we had already read him because we knew he was waiting for a callback on Romeo. So then when he didn't get it, we thought, oh, good, we have him. But he was so depressed and down, he didn't want to do it. And so we kind of begged him. And I think Linda even gave him a call because she had kind of the hots for him too. I think she kind of liked him. And anyway, we finally got him to commit, which was great because he worked out fine. Everybody I thought was perfectly cast. We had no problems with the casting.
I thought it was funny in the commentary track. She said she remembered everything except for the kissing scenes. I bet you Peter Barton doesn't hasn't forgotten kissing Linda Blair though.
No, it's probably on his resume. She's totally out of the business now, unfortunately. You know, she has a charity for animals. It's her first love anyway. It always was, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, Vincent Van Patten, of course, had done Rock and Roll High School, as I mentioned, you know. Talk about bringing him into the movie.
Well, that was Bruce's idea. Bruce liked him, and we always knew that we wanted somebody, you know, surfer dude, kind of silly guy. And I wasn't familiar with his work. Vincent's work, but Bruce was. So I saw some clips, you know, of Rock and Roll High School, and I said, yeah, he'll be perfect. So he came in. He was a little, not a challenge to work with, but a little different because he was so much like that character, you know, off the wall and a little bit highfalutin, crazy. You know, I'll use the word crazy. That whenever I would have a scene or something, you know, he said, how about if I come in through the window instead of, and I said, well, you know, and I always have to tone him down. I always wanted to do something a little bit too quirky for the moment, you know. So lots of times, a lot of the stuff was his idea, you know, the bow and arrow and shooting her and stuff like that. But
shoot a girl in the ass.
yeah. We never had any conflict on the set. The big conflict was the love scene, which you've heard about, you know.
Yeah.
Which surprised everybody because of my background. They all expected something really hot, you know, and we got nothing. Mac and I were really upset that day because we didn't know what the hell to do. And it was at one point we were running a rehearsal and we saw the shadows on the wall. Mac and I looked at each other and we thought, okay, let's shoot it with the shadows as much as we can so that it looks like they're doing something, you know. But that was the big disappointment. And Irwin, the producer, was very upset when he saw the dailies. And I said they wouldn't, or Vince wouldn't do the scene the way it was scripted, you know. So the reason was his family, he said, you know.
Oh.
The Van Patten name.
Okay.
And also he was dating Farrah Fawcett at the time, and she was waiting downstairs. It was New Year's Eve day. She was on location waiting for us to wrap. So we were trying to get out. We had a half day because people, you know, for New Year's Eve, and she was there to pick him up. And I'm trying to get this very important scene in the can. And that was the only day I was really pissed off, you know, that I couldn't get what I wanted.
Was it his idea to wear the boxer shorts with the hearts on it?
In the wardrobe, people picked it up, but it always gets a big laugh. Stuff like that he wanted to do, and I said, fine, it's in character, you know.
Yeah. Oh.
And Suki was willing to do the scene topless as it was written, but he wouldn't appear in the scene if she was topless, he said. So
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Mr. Skin is not happy about that.
I mean, that's what I mean. The scene was going to be them making love, and it was going to be a little bit torrid. And that's why the monster watching, gets all worked up and turned into like a silly, giggly, tickly surfing scene or something, which went nowhere. It just killed me when I saw the final cut because we didn't have anything to work with. He wouldn't give us anything. So,
uh, that's unfortunate. She was very attractive too.
yeah, I've recently connected with her on Facebook after all these years.
I should reach out to her. I liked the whole
She's a mother of
story.
teenage. She's got kids in their 20s. I was shocked, and she still looks great. She looks
Yeah.
good.
Well, it's interesting because her death scene, um, of course, is off screen, but the result of it, that was pretty creative how you pulled that off. Her head, of course, under the covers, but of course, her head was up through the mattress, you say behind the scene. That really worked. I watched that. I said, that paid off really nice.
Well, again, it was one of those things where money, we couldn't afford to make they talked about doing a wax model of her head, but it was going to be very costly and very time consuming. And I said, just stick her head through the mat, make a hole in the mattress, and they just faked the neck. It was similar to what we did with Jenny getting killed, with the head.
Hmm.
But I said, just make a hole and stick the head through it, and it worked. It was uncomfortable for her because her head had to lay sideways, but it was just a quick shot.
But she was a real trooper about it.
Oh yeah, it is effective because you realize it's really her head. It's not, a wax dummy or something.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed scenes like that, you know. I found the movie very creative. You even though there's a lot of deaths that are cutaways, I s-
Mm,
I s- to me that doesn't bother me. It didn't take me out of the movie. I don't think a movie has to be gory to be
right.
effective, you know.
Well, that was
I
our attitude going in. I wasn't going to do a blood and guts movie. I didn't want to, and they didn't either. They liked the idea of keeping it mysterious and tension rather than just gore.
yeah. So
I mean, those
yeah,
Saw movies are unwatchable for me. The Saw movies where they just put these people through horrendous torture.
you know what? I've seen all the Saw movies in the theater. And I've Spiral is coming out this weekend. I
Mhm.
plan to go. And sometimes I ask myself, why do I put myself through it? I thought the first Saw was very clever.
Mhm.
Um, it's hit and miss with the rest of the franchise for me. Um, they're
Well, I saw
not.
Chris Rock was on TV last night, and he was a big fan of the Saw movies, and he wanted to do one, and he contacted the producers because he had that idea to do one with, he said, a little bit of comedy in it. So I might see that one because I'm kind of
Yeah.
a fan of his.
Yeah, but I too, and again, I don't want to be a prude here because I've got the I've got a lot of slasher films here, you know. Um, Plus, I love the some of the Italian stuff by Mario Bava and Dario Argento, which can be graphic.
I love
But
Black
those Black Sunday, yep,
Sabbath. I
yep,
have that. Yeah.
yep. But those films also have a lot of class and style,
Mhm.
you know, like stuff like Deep Red and Suspiria.
Yes, it's
They,
very.
yeah, they've got blood, but they also have a like they're so beautifully lit that I mean they're great to just to look at, you know. Um, so I do enjoy films like that. I like getting sucked into it, you know, and even with the Friday the 13th franchise, for example, hit or miss. Peter Barton was in the fourth one, the final chapter, which I thought was one of the best ones. It's got the blood and gore, but it also has relatable characters, which I thought
Well, we
worked.
did a lot of, when I did the TV series based on that, we did a lot of blood and gore in that, but it was kind
Hmm.
of campy. It was a TV series late at night on
Hmm.
PBS or something. And so we had a lot of fun. I mean, on days when Robert Englund, he only worked one day each episode because the makeup was so extensive for him. And, so in other words, he would come in the day we had all his scenes in that one day and he would get ready. And then when he was ready, we had to stop whatever we did and shoot his scenes, if there were scenes where he was involved in the actual story.
Mm-hmm.
And but it was always a lot of camp. I mean, we'd have blood tubes everywhere. We'd have to cover the camera with plastic when it was ready because blood would be spurting or he'd be cutting someone's neck, you know, and those scissor hands poking. So I mean, that was a lot of fun because it was kind of campy gore. It wasn't serious. It was TV.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you have a favorite death scene to execute in
I do. Well, there are two. One is with Patty McCormick, the girl who was in The Bad Siege, by the little girl in The Bad
uh-huh.
Siege, when she was a grown up. And she played a female photographer whose career is on the skids. And Freddie makes a deal with her, or in her dream, that she'll become famous. But when she's taking the pictures, he appears in the scene. The people in the scene don't see him, but she can see him through her camera, and she begins directing him, and he kills. Well, at the end of the episode, he jams his fingers into her eyes, and she couldn't wait to do that, you know. But of course, we used a dummy head. Her back, she turns to him. We cut to the back of the head, and he does the jab, and you see the head. And she turns around screaming, and the holes are here and that. We had fun doing that. And then there's another one where he slits the guy's throat. The guy's sitting in a chair that swivels, and he swivels the chair around and brings his blades across and cuts the guy's neck. I can't remember. Oh, there's another one where he rips the guy's heart out of his chest. And we had it beating. You know, we had a tube, with an air valve, so the heart would keep pumping, you know, in his hands. So I mean, stuff like that. Those were kind of fun. You know, when it was that day on the set, everybody was jazzed up, you know, because we had plastic everywhere and special props and air pumps and special effects people there. It was more fun than just directing actors talking, you know. So, but yeah, those scenes in Hell Night, my favorite one, of course, is the end with on the car.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah,
I'm glad that you got that one in. I think that really added to it. And it also kind of like, you know, when Linda Blair knows that, like when he pops down on the windshield, it's like, you know, enough's enough. That's where
yeah.
Linda Blair, like, you
She's
know
out.
what?
She's
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's always a big scare in the theaters with an audience when he pops on the windshield.
Mm-hmm. No, and I love the fact there was two of them.
Mhm.
You know, the first one's gone. We think that's it.
I don't
Was it?
think the original script there were two. I think that came about because we wanted to have that fake ending of Seth saving the day, you know, when he kills that monster outside. And then I think we decided to go one step further and have the other one. But I
Yeah.
think the original script, he just kills the monster and she escapes or something like that. I don't recall.
Yeah, no, I had a fun time with this film. I'm hoping eventually I go to Toronto, except last year, COVID. I go to Toronto every year for Horrorama, and so I'm hoping one of these times, you know, in Toronto, I could see a screening of this. It's a little harder here in Fredericton to catch movies on the big screen. Although during COVID, we had a few that did screen, which was
Did you
really
watch
nice to
that on
catch.
your computer or on a screen, or how did you view it? Because it's beautiful
That
on the screen.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I've got my TV right here behind me, and I watched what
You need a TV like that to watch.
I may have to get something like that eventually, but it was like I don't know, it's like 4 in the morning. I think I watched this.
That's a good time for a horror
Yeah.
film.
Well, I was gonna go right to bed, and I thought, no, I'm awake enough. I wanted to hear the commentary at least, you know, and get myself a little update, you know, before the interview, you know. But let's backtrack a little bit, you know, because it's funny. I mentioned Danny Steinman earlier, and he got his start in doing porn films, and of course, you got your start there as well.
Mhm.
Um, where did the idea of Chatterbox come
Well,
from?
that was going to be that was a hardcore picture about a girl with a talking vagina,
Hmm.
and we actually had we talked to the people that did Sid. I remember Sid and Marty Croft. They had puppet shows or something. They would make these puppets and stuff, and they worked in a club near me. They were quite famous. They were on television, and they were going to make up. We discussed making up a latex vagina because we were going to actually see it talking. That was the gag, you know, and. And it was never intended to be a musical or anything like that. It was just going to be this girl who had this problem that her vagina would talk and at the most inopportune time. So when I met Bruce Curtis, and we decided to do a picture together, we wanted to work together, he said, "Do you have any?" I said, "Well, I have a script," because he was interested in doing. He said, "I want to do like Emmanuel." Remember those pictures, Emmanuel? You may not, I don't know if you're old.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
They
about.
were nude, but no, softcore sex. He wanted to do something like that because they were big in the market then. So I said, "Well, I have a script." I said, "It's an X-rated script." So he said, "Well, let me read it." So he read it, and he loved it, and he found many people that liked it. But as the picture progressed, it kept changing, and too many hands got in there. At first, they wanted to make it a silly comedy, and then they wanted to make it a musical. And then the voice of Virginia, who I always imagined to be kind of gruff, they said, "Oh no, she should be cute and light and funny." And so because I don't know if you remember an actress named Selma Diamond.
No, I don't.
She was a stand-up comic in Philly. She was very raspy voice and kind of borderline vulgar, like a Sophie Tucker kind of delivery. But she was funny. I wanted her. "Oh no," I said. He said she'd be more like Minnie Mouse. I said, "Oh geez." So the picture became neither fish nor fowl. It was whitewashed down. It had musical numbers, and when it was done, nobody knew what the hell it was. It ended up being 73 minutes because we cut so much stuff out. And so I wasn't thrilled with it, but it opened the door. I mean, Bruce called me back to do Hell Night, which I was happy with. But yeah, Chatterbox was originally going to be a hardcore movie because I had done several hardcore movies, and it was right after Deep Throat came out, and that was a huge hit.
Yeah.
And I said to my partner, I said, "We need to do something from a woman's point of view where she's the impetus, she's the one." So I came up with this idea about the talking vagina, and that became Chatterbox. It was originally called Lips, and we had posters made up, and we had artwork done and everything. But then Paramount was releasing Lipstick with Hemingway, Margaret Hemingway or whatever, and they put this thing up with the Producers Guild or somebody said, it's competition. People wander into the wrong theater. I said, I don't think they wander into the wrong theater. But anyway, so we had to come up with a new title, and somebody in the office just came up with Chatterbox, and it's better.
I actually really like the title Chatterbox.
Yeah.
I first heard of this movie when I interviewed your brother.
Well, that was the picture he got his SAG card. He played the cab driver.
Yeah. And the Cinema Snob, who I've had on the show for the Cinema Snob YouTube channel, did an episode on it, and I was like, "Oh, this," because I've never seen Chatterbox. So when the Cinema Snob was talking about it, I'm like, this is actually pretty ambitious for a movie that is of the subject matter.
I wouldn't, they were talking about doing commentary for the DVD. I said, I can't comment on that. I have to I mean, with today's Me Too movement and misogyny, oh my God, a picture of a girl with a talking vagina, I'd be crucified. I can't defend it. But it was way back when,
Yeah, this whole cancel culture thing, I wish they would shove that up their ass.
It's a little, well, I would say it's all bad. We're having a problem right now in Palm Springs. We have that famous statue of Marilyn Monroe. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's a big statue, 26 feet high, of the famous skirt blowing up.
Yeah, from 70 Rich.
We had her here in Palm Springs several years ago, and it was a huge draw. And we had her here for 2 years, right in the center downtown. People came from all over to see it and photograph it. Then she went off. The owner, what he did was he made this statue, the artist, and he would lease it to various cities across the country. And they would book her for a year or something. Well, we kept her for 2 years. Well, they finally paid $1 million to get her back permanently, and they picked a specific spot in town near the museum to put this statue. Now it's in court. People are fighting it because it's misogynist.
Japers.
Objectifying women. I said it's an iconic image from the 50s. I mean, everybody knows this picture, but the problem is you can get under. It's so tall, you can look up and see her panties. I said, well, if that's the case, then we have to go into the art museum and take down every painting of every woman who's naked, and break the penises off this men's statues. I mean, where do we stop? I mean, first of all, she's fully clothed, Marilyn.
Yep.
So
Oh yeah, I saw the movie. Yeah.
yeah, and it's a famous statue, and now it's all in the courts, and people have wanted it, people that don't want it here. It's it's a shame.
Did you hear the latest one about Snow White?
Oh, about kissing her, yeah, without her permission.
Oh,
I
jeepers,
know.
that's so ridiculous. I'd like to.
It
I hate,
breaks the curse. Come on. Would you not kiss her if you knew that would wake her up from a curse? I mean, come on.
you know, I hate to sound violent, but it comes to the point I'd like to take an aluminum baseball bat and just watch those two watch them part like the Red Sea as I come at them because
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a little extreme. The Snow White kiss. I mean,
yeah,
it's important. It's the whole point of the stories. He wakes her from this, this deadly curse. Yeah. Same with Sleeping Beauty. You have to kiss her or there's no story. I
yeah.
suppose it'll be the next one.
Well, I look at it this way: these cancel culture people, they're assholes,
Mhm.
and they won't set foot near me if they know what's good for them. In fact, they probably won't set foot through around a lot of people if they know what's good for them. They're
Some of
good.
it, some of it I understand. Some of it I think it's over the top, like the Snow White thing, and I think the Marilyn thing is a little over the top. People are saying,
Yeah,
"Well, children can see it." I said, we were having a discussion recently. One of the women said, "Well, children can see it." I said, "Children are on the computer all day. You want to know what they're looking at? They're not looking at Marilyn Monroe's underwear. Believe me. They're way past that on the internet."
actually, I get tired. There's a group out there that I can't stand called Movie Guide,
Mm.
and I come from a Christian background.
Yeah, me too,
I,
Kat.
I'm in fact I'm the guy that made so many people uncomfortable because I sat back and watched as everybody from the churches went and saw The Passion of the Christ, an R-rated film that
Oh,
came
yeah.
very close. It came very close to an X.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
close.
but it
In
was
fact,
well filmed.
it would have been if those scenes didn't involve Christ, I
Yeah,
mean, if it was just an ordinary person being bloodied that way. I mean, they would have said, "Oh, this is beyond." But because it was Christ, we had to watch it. It was acceptable.
yeah. I got the film here. I love the film. Mel Gibson, terrific filmmaker, but I look at Pure Flix, for example, and I just laugh when people of faith. It's basically, well, it doesn't matter whether it's well made as long as the message is there. Okay, well, how about I cook you a meal and I'll do a shitty job,
Yeah.
but I'll say, well, I put an effort into it.
Yeah, I meant well.
You
Well,
know.
I grew up, I mean, I'm way older than you, and I grew up in the 50s as a teenager, and we had
Mhm.
what's called Legion of Decency, which was the Catholic Church.
Oh, I remember
They,
them.
and they actually had a rating system. And if it was X, you couldn't see it. No, C, condemned. Yeah, it was A, B, and C. C was condemned. A was for everybody, all adult. B was adults only or something, and C was condemned. And there were often pictures that they would condemn. And of course, at that age, I saw every movie ever made. I was in the theaters every day if I could. And we would have to stand sometimes in church at Sunday Mass, and the priest would make us take a pledge. We had to stand and he would read this pledge and we had to repeat the word, that we would, under the pain of sin and mortal, we would not see it. And I wouldn't do it. I would just move my mouth. I would like I was taking the pledge. But in my heart, I thought, if I take this pledge, I won't be able to see the movie, but God will understand, that kind of stuff. But I mean, Baby Doll, we weren't supposed to see. No business like show business. They condemned it because of Marilyn's dance number, Heat Wave, having a heat wave. And he
You
said,
know
the
what?
shame of it is the picture involves an Irish Catholic family where one of them becomes a priest. But because Marilyn does that number, which is so innocuous, we weren't supposed to see that movie. And I thought, I'm going to see that movie. I'm going to give it a shit. And same with Baby Doll. I saw it. Duel in the Sun. I saw that movie.
I double dare them to try that with me.
Yeah.
I
Well, anybody
actually
today. Yeah.
I actually told various people in a church to F off, and they had it coming to them because they were prying into my personal life, but they were pretty shocked.
And that was the thing. I used to feel, well, this is between me and God. If I mean, they made this. First of all, I went to see Baby Doll. There was nothing in that movie. I mean, I was bored as a kid. I didn't get this whole thing about unrequited. I mean, what's the word they use? Married couple haven't had sex yet. Uh,
Oh, they think a stork brings kids.
yeah, but I
They're
mean, it
that
was
they're that
that
stupid.
innocuous. Yeah, and I kept waiting for the big scene that would make this a sin to watch. And I thought, that's it. That's the movie, you know. So anyway, Duel in the Sun, I understand. That was pretty raw, but I loved it. It's still one of my all-time favorite movies.
Yeah, but
It's one of the few films where the two lead characters are actually really evil people. I mean, they're not evil, but they're driven by lust and sex. They can't stay away from each other, you know, and they end up killing each other over sex. You know, I mean, it's amazing. I
well,
love
what
it.
I find funny with these stupid Pure Flix movies is that rather, I think they do an injustice to Christianity because
Mhm.
what they do is they portray everybody who's not a Christian
It's bad.
as evil. And
Yeah,
I'm sorry, you can't do that,
of course not. That's
you
like
know?
saying, you know, make a picture all the Jews are evil and everybody else isn't, or blacks, or, you know, of course we did that a lot with blacks, unfortunately. Just finally getting around to straightening that out.
Yep. So I think
Well, what
the
about that
movie.
group that gets films and they cut out all the objectionable scenes and screen them? There's a group that does that. You know, they book these pictures like in these small towns, and they'll go through it and cut out all the objectionable scenes and then play it. And directors are fighting it. A lot of directors say you can't play that movie if you're going to do that. You know?
Well, I'll tell you what, will they cut out the scene where the Muslim father physically throws his daughter out of the house and God's not dead? Oh, I suppose that's acceptable.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I mean, again, I come from a Christian faith, but it's like if I was making a movie like that, the last thing I'm going to do, I want to engage outside. They're just making movies to preach to the choir,
Mhm.
you know. I'm going to tell you a little story. I saw this really shitty Kirk Cameron movie
Oh,
called Fireproof. That
yeah.
movie guide was, oh, they thought that was so great. They talked about Kirk Cameron like he was Marlon Brando and On the Waterfront. If you would see a bunch of idiots, look at the people from Movie Guide. They gave this thing 4 stars. You knew the couple was going to get back together at the end of it. You know, big marriage was in trouble, and I'm like, yeah, I knew within five. I actually had somebody at Christian bookstore say to me, "Didn't you cry at the end of it?"
Yeah. For
Really?
majority,
Well, if
yeah.
that's the case, I should have cried within 5 minutes. I knew how it was going to
They
end.
cry all the way through it. It's so bad. Yeah,
It
I
was
know.
it.
But you know, there's an audience for those pictures, and that's fine. But the thing is, don't try to force those standards on everybody else. Is what I'm saying. You want to make a picture that glorifies that aspect, fine. But if I make a picture that's something else, you know, like Chatterbox, don't come tell me I can't make that movie. I mean, I pulled a little bit of that by walking off of Severed Streets, but only because I found it distasteful for myself. And
Hmm.
I was not that I just thought there's no way I can shoot this and not be uncomfortable. And how am I going to motivate the actors to do something that I find repulsive? You know, raping a deaf and dumb girl, I thought was a little bit over the line. You know, raping her, okay, it happens every day in the movies and TV. Oh Christ, I did TV series. We were having a discussion once about people were blaming the movies and television for all the violence in the world, and the producers saying, "I don't know," and I said, Jack, I said, we kill somebody before the credits every week. So I mean, we're part of it. But you know, it's entertainment in that sense. But a deaf and dumb girl, I thought, was really crossing the line. For me, anyway. You know.
Yeah, but I found it interesting with somebody had said to me, "How would you have made Fireproof differently?" And I said, I would have upped the suspense, and I would have had the audience think that the wife actually cheated,
Mhm.
even though she didn't. Of course, that is beyond the Kendrick brothers
Oh
to
yeah,
make a movie that's got any
somebody
form of
cheat.
suspense. It's just preaching to the choir, pure garbage. Yep. But anyway, though, yeah, if I had a choice between watching Chatterbox and Fireproof, I'll take Chatterbox.
You'll probably enjoy it. It's silly, you know. It's short. It's 73 minutes, thankfully, and it's short. There are a couple of good jokes in it. You know, the problem I had with it was they changed all of Virginia's dialogue from the original dialogue, where she was sassy. They wanted to clean it up and make it cute. And the thing is, we filmed it with the original dialogue in mind. So I would have the actress or the act reacting to what she said. And then when we get in post production and they changed all those lines, she said something. There was this big reaction to something that was just innocuous, you know. And so it was, like I said, there were too many people involved in post-production. Although it got released and it played, and it actually got a few good reviews and a small. It's now considered a Hollywood cult classic. You know, how could it not be a movie about a singing vagina? You know?
Yeah, but
It's funny. Most of the pictures I did become cult. Like Reform School Girls is a big cult picture. Hell Night is a cult picture. You know.
let's talk about Concrete Jungle. You got Jill St. John, Tracy Bregman, who was in Happy Birthday.
Barbara Luna. Don't forget Barbara Luna. She's terrific. She was
Yeah,
terrific. Picture. One of my favorites. Working with her. Yeah.
Sandra Curry,
Mhm.
Camille Keaton from I Spit on Your Grave. Talk about working on this movie.
Peter Brown was in it, but he's gone now. He died young, I think.
Hmm. But talk about working on this movie.
Well, that was Billy Fine. You
Hmm.
know, what happened was after I'd done Hell Night, um, I think we were in post production, and Irwin came to me and he said, "I have a friend, a producer, Billy Fine, and he said he's got a picture ready to go, and they got rid of the director, and he said they need somebody to come in right away." And Shelley Winters was supposed to be in it too. She was playing the social worker, and
Okay.
and he said Joe St. John. I said, "Oh wow!" And I thought, "Wow, this is big." I mean, Shelley Winters, an Academy Award winner, you know. So I met with the producer, and he said, "Yeah, fine, Erwin, vouch for you." So you know, so I was handed the script. I met Jack Cummins, and we had this. We had scheduled a table read for the cast, you know, so I could meet everybody, because it all been cast. Why they lost the other director, I don't know, but I guess he and Billy didn't get along, so he was history. But we were supposed to start shooting in a week, and I was
Uh,
panicking because I needed prep time, you know, and I hadn't seen any of the locations. So we had the table read, and the lead actress was just god awful. And it was the first time they had all gotten together. So immediately afterwards, Barbara Luna came to me and Jill said, they both said, "She's that girl." I said, "You're right." You know? So we got in touch with Billy. We said, "We got a problem." I said, "That girl can't act." Whoa. I said, "Well, she was a beauty contest winner." I said, "Well, that's all she is." You know? So evidently she and the old director, you know, he cast her. And I said, "We need, you know," I said, "You're not going to have a picture without an actress." So we put the word out to agents right away. And Barbara was actually gracious enough to come in and read. It was like on a Sunday because we were so close to getting started. We went up to Billy's home in Hollywood Hills, and Barbara came in, and we scheduled the appointments like every 15 minutes or so. We had actresses showing up to read, you know. And Tracy came in, and we both, when she left, Barbara and I looked at her. We said, "That's the girl," you know. So anyway, so that's how that happened. But I did get them to extend the prep one more week. I said, "I need time. I need to see the locations. I have, you know, I got to work things out." So he gave me the extra week, and that's when that happened. So that was not a difficult picture. It was one of those pictures where it was depressing to go to the set every day because we were filming in a real prison. You know, you show up in the morning and it was cold and gray in there, and all the women were sitting around with no makeup but wearing those gray prison garb, and it was totally different from every other picture. But Barbara was good to work with. Jill was okay. Tracy was good. She's good as an actress, but she wasn't physical. We had a lot of trouble with. We had fight scenes with her, and that was kind of a little awkward. But for the most part, it was an easy shoot, and I enjoyed doing it. It came out on Blu-ray recently, but I don't like the look of it. They blasted it with too much light. It looks like a musical comedy. I don't know why they did that. You know, of course, the original cinematography wasn't great, but for some reason, when they went to Blu-ray, it just looks very bright and too much color for some
hmm
reason.
Now, Savage Street, you said you left early. I mean, I've met Linnea Quigley at a con, and I had her on my show, actually on my birthday the year after. And of course, John Vernon in this. You
Yeah.
didn't get to work with them at all, huh?
No, I didn't work with any. I didn't work with any other than just casting. That was it. You know, we
Mm.
were down to casting when that actor called me. He said, "There's no way I can do this," and I thought, Jesus, you know, he's voiced what I've been feeling all along, and that's when I realized I couldn't do it. You know, when a lead actor will turn down a lead in a picture because he finds it so distasteful, I thought, how can I direct this?
Well,
And I mean, this is somebody coming from porn. You know, you would
well,
think I'd be comfortable with anything, but I just didn't see myself on the set motivating these actors to do some of this stuff.
I need to mention that too because you mentioned you come up and as a Catholic, when you did because I know you did some correct me if I'm wrong. You did directed some gay porn as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you did porn films, and I know a lot of filmmakers that come up through making pornography.
But
Um,
none of them became famous in that era. I became kind of famous in
yeah.
that. You know, I mean, there are books. There's a book being produced right now on me, my whole career,
Mm,
starting with porn, and I've got books on my shelf where many people have interviewed me about those days. But you know, early on, I felt uncomfortable about it because for obvious reasons. And at
hmm
first of all, when we were doing it, it was illegal to be making those pictures. I mean, you could show them, but you couldn't make them. That was the dichotomy. But the law was if you paid people to have sex, you were pandering, and that was illegal. So we had to hide behind, I use different names on these pictures sometimes. Most of the time, I use different names. And then we had to have secret locations. There was a lot of underground filmmaking going on because there was fear of being busted. So for the longest time, I didn't admit to it openly. Now I could care less. And it's and then, passe that so what, he did porno, big deal. But I kept it a secret for a while for obvious reasons.
So the church never found out, huh?
Do I care? First of all, by the time I was,
Quite frankly, I wouldn't care either.
I went 12 years to parochial school with the nuns. I was very religious. But then what happened was I went to college and my mind got open, and I met people and read authors, and I realized that, I wasn't going to be a religious person. That I wasn't going to let that rule my life, fear and all that stuff. So I'm not a practicing Catholic. I haven't been in years. But no, that never bothered me. My family knew I was doing X-rated movies. They never saw any, and I never told them anything about it. Of course, they were much happier when I graduated into legit stuff because then they could actually go to the theater and see them or watch them on TV.
Yeah.
Every now and then, one of my pictures would play in Boston, and I was fearful. I wouldn't tell them about it. One of my uncles went to see it. He saw Prison Girls, which was an X-rated 3D movie, and it played at a big theater in Boston with a big marquee thing over the marquee, and he called me on the phone. He was just so thrilled, and I said, "Well, you don't really have to go see it." "Oh no, I want to see it." I said, "Well, it's not all I tried to talk him out of it, but luckily it was a heterosexual one." So
Well, I still practice my faith. It's just I don't do it the way you see it in the media. Just I can't get behind that. I think they're doing more damage, these people in the media, than they are actually helping people.
mhm.
Um, yep. But especially since I like your film, so but reform. Oh no, I was going to ask you about your the name Lance. What's it, Lancer Brooks?
Lanther Brooks, yeah.
Where'd you
Well,
come up with that?
that's a funny story. When my partner and I were making these pictures, each picture we would just make up a name for director, like R.U. Horneye, or we had this mafia guy, money guy, who would pay us to make a picture. He would give us $3,000, and we would meet him in a place called a Hi-Hat Lounge in L.A. It was this dark kind of mafioso cocktail lounge, and we'd sit there in a booth, and he would slip us the money in an envelope under the table, and we would bring him a bag with the print in it, film in it. So we made several pictures for him. His name was Norman Arno. I think that was it. Anyway, we would one there one night after two, and he said, by the way, he said, use the same names you did on the last picture because they like your work and I can get more money. I said, oh. So we left, and I thought, what the hell was the last, what did he use? And I looked, and it was Lancer Brooks. So I thought, well, I'm now going to be Lancer Brooks. So that's what happened.
Where did you come up with that name?
I don't know, I just made it up.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
creative.
Brooks sounds like and Lancer was kind of classy. I don't know.
Okay.
We just made name. My partner at the time, his name was, that picture came out, the Blue Max. Remember that picture about the airplane? And he called himself Max Blue. So suddenly we were Max Blue and Lancer Brooks making these pictures.
Okay. All right.
The first X-rated picture was called Mother Lover, which was a hetero picture. And I used my mother's maiden name, Tom Mosca, and those were weird times because, like I said, it was all underground. Hardly anybody knew what I was doing except very close friends, because I didn't want people to know, and we would hide where we were, stuff. They would raid people's homes if they suspected. I remember I put somebody called me one time because I had made a picture called The Collection, and it got busted at the theater. And he said, you know, they're going around looking for prints. And I had a couple of prints in my home, and I put them in the trunk of my car. This was at night. And I drove several blocks away and parked the cars, and I walked home so the car wouldn't even be on my premises. They came to my house. It's just weird stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now it's a big industry, and everybody, it's on the internet. Anybody can see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Talk about bringing your brother into these movies.
Well, like I said, when I was doing Chatterbox, I wanted to, I was trying to help him out, get a career, do something. You know, he was doing stand-up comedy, and I thought if I could get him a SAG card, maybe somebody will cast him. So I asked Bruce to let him play the cab driver because I said he's funny and he's a good mugger and he can do it. So we had, you know, Bruce had to go to bat with this SAG chick because, you know, that was a role that any SAG player could play. You know, you're not supposed to give away. So Bruce had to convince him that he had special talent. He had, you know, and he was comic and all that stuff. So he got a SAG card. And then who used him next? Oh, Bruce used him in The Seduction.
Okay.
I don't know I think he played a photographer in that. And then I used him in Concrete Jungle. He just plays a cop in one scene, you know, very simple. I mean, I would throw him anything I could, a small part, you know.
Ever thought of using him in Hell Night?
It wasn't a role for, he was too old to play one of those kids, you know, and he wasn't, no, I didn't, I mean, you know, it was Linda. We had those kids all cast when that was done. But I did use him on a couple of TV series. I used him on Dark Justice.
Mm-hmm.
He played a lawyer, and he worked with Tony Basil in one scene. And Bruce used him in Seduction. But then Danny, because I cast him in Savage Streets, he and Danny hit it off and became buddies. And then so Danny called him in to do Friday the 13th. So.
And of course, you were
most remembered for that. He's most remembered. He's got a big fan. They still write him, you know, for Friday. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you worked with a lot of people involved with the Friday the 13th franchise. Peter Barton from the final chapter, the fourth one.
Oh, he worked for us first. Yeah.
Yeah, and Tiffany Helm from the same one that your brother was in, and Darcy DeBoz.
Oh, Darcy, yeah.
She was in part 6, Jason Lives.
Right. Yeah, we're friends on Facebook too. Yeah.
Yeah.
We all found each other. Mm-hmm.
I've never been able to get Darcy on here. I got her on my friends list, but she's never responded to me. And people keep telling me she'd gladly do your show, and I'm like,
I would think she would. Yeah.
I don't know. I just can't seem to get her to respond. But she had an interesting death scene in Jason Lives, I'll tell you that. But Reformed Schoolgirls.
I know she does those fan shows. You know, she shows those, so I don't see why she. Maybe you're not paying her. You know, they make a lot of money on those fan shows. My brother does. He does.
Yeah.
You know, interesting directors.
Yeah. Well, gee, I would think that they should bring you to one of those.
Well, they stopped because of COVID.
Yes.
And I forget, you know, I don't know who these people are, but one of them contacted me and they were doing it online. And they were asking for, you know, my brother's gotten quite a few. He sent in pictures of himself, and people were sending in posters and asking him to sign them. And so he was doing quite a lot. He was getting 4 or 5 hits and, you know, paying him so much for each signature and all that crap. And Linda does that all the time, Linda Blair. You know, recently my 2 nieces went to one of those shows and she was there. And they said, you know, our uncle was your director, and she was all thrilled to meet them. So they sent me a selfie with them and Linda.
I wonder if Sean Clark, who would be interested in involving you in some of these cons, because he's the one that first got Jamie Lee Curtis to one. You know, I should speak to him about that and see, you know, because he gets a lot of people, and especially horror films, you know, and of course
a lot of these fans don't really know directors as much as they know, because we're not visible. You know, I mean, they know the cast. You know, now maybe if they follow these films and they were a big fan of Hell Night and they'd like to meet the director, but a lot of these shows deal mostly, I think, with the actors, don't they? I mean, do they have directors? Unless somebody like Tobe Hooper, you know, that I understand because they're famous for doing horror films. But I did do the Freddy series a lot, and I did Hell Night.
I'd go meet you, get this thing signed. So Anyway, though, but reformed schoolgirls, you also had Sybil Danning in that, and Wendy O. Williams and Pat.
Yeah.
You had some
That,
interesting people. Yeah.
yeah.
Any
Well,
other?
go
Huh?
ahead.
I was gonna say, any stories about working on this film?
Well, that came about because I had done Concrete Jungle, and then I
Mm-hmm.
was working, and I thought, well, I got to come up with some idea. And I had done that, and I did Prison Girls, which was a 3D X-rated movie, and I did an episode of She Spies, where it was women. I started to get this reputation of being the women's prison director. You know, so as a kid growing up, I had this favorite movie when I was very young, a teenager, that I saw called So Young, So Bad, and it starred Anne Francis, and these were all young girls in reform. It was Anne Francis, it was Rosita Marino before she was Rita Marino, and
Uh-huh.
another another actress who became a big Broadway star. But they were all new kids on the block, kind of. This that first picture, and it was all about girls who were in film school. And the picture really hit me. It haunted me for years, and I just never forgot it. I always thought it was wonderful. It was exciting for me, and I was a big fan of Anne Francis at the time. So I started thinking, oh, I'm going to do something like So Young, So Bad. And I had done Concrete Jungle, and I thought, I want to do a women's prison picture, but I want to kind of spoof it, do all the cliches that we've always said to go over the top and be crazy. So I wrote Reform School Girls. And I peddled it around and finally found somebody who was interested in it. He brought it to New World. And they said, yeah, we like it, so let's do it. So that's how that came about. Now, when I was writing it, I always had Pat Ast in mind
Mm-hmm.
as the matron, because I had met her in New York years before at a disco. And this is when she was big with Halston's crowd and Andy Warhol and all that. And I had been at a disco, and it was an upstairs room where VIPs went and everything. And a friend I was with, we got in, and she was there on the floor. They had all these big harem cushions and everybody was getting high and all that. And I just found her interesting. So, and I said, I'm a director. And I said, one of these days I'm going to call you. Oh yeah, sure. Okay. That kind of thing. So, and this was in New York. But I never forgot her. So when I was writing this picture, I remembered her and I looked for her in the SAG listing and she was there. So I told them I wanted her. So now they wanted Sybil to play that role.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I hadn't even considered Sybil Danning, and I said, no, she's not right. Oh, they said, we want her on the video box. She'll sell video. I said, look, that's not why I'm making the picture. I said, she can't do this. I said, this is a broad, comic, over the top, crazy. I said, the woman has to look crazy. She has to be crazy. I said, Sybil is attractive. She's got a fan base following about her body. And I said, it's just not what I have in mind. So we fought and fought. So finally, what I did was I took the part of the warden, which was a man's part. And I said, I'll change it to a woman. She can play the, okay, fine. We just want her in the movie. That's all. So that's how she came about to be in the pictures. And
Okay.
I got to keep Pat, and then Wendy, the music guy brought her to us, the guy who was the music coordinator, because I was looking for I wanted somebody very cute and sexy. I wasn't thinking of her as a tough lesbian. I was wanting to go the opposite, like a lipstick lesbian. And he was listening to girl bands. We decided to do the track with the all girl bands. And he came in, he said, you ever hear Wendy? I said, yeah, she's the crazy one with the guitar smashing. And he said, well, she just did a layout in Playboy where she skydived in the nude. And we said, really? So we rushed out and got Playboy and looked at the pictures. He said, she might be interested in doing something like this. She doesn't mind showing her body. So we said, well, let's bring her in. So we talked to her manager, who was Rod something, and they agreed to do the picture. So then it all came about.
Okay.
That was a fun picture, easy to do.
The last film I want to bring up is Angel 3, the final chapter, because, it's interesting. You're the third person I've
Mhm.
interviewed from this movie. I had Dick Miller on the
Oh,
show
yeah.
5 months before he passed away. And I'm going to tell you the story behind that is I usually have planned out people I'm going to reach out to in advance, you know. And Dick Miller was not on my list because I thought, would he actually do the show? But I noticed he had done a lot of conventions, and I was like, would he do my show? I reached out and I heard back from his wife, and lo and behold, I got him. He was wonderful to interview. His wife was wonderful, and
Was
when
Angel
he
his last picture? I think Angel was his last picture, or what did he do something after that? Do you know?
Let me see. I know one thing. I'm so glad I reached out when I did.
Mhm.
No, he worked right up to 2019.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well,
I wish we had a bigger role for him, but everybody was thrilled when we got this idea to bring him into the picture. Actually, he had a little more in the picture, but it was trimmed down. But that always happens. But
yeah.
when somebody suggested him for the picture, he couldn't play the detective. We had already cast that, the lead, and so we thought, well, let's like make her boss, just to have him in the picture. Tony Randall, who was one of the studio reps on the picture, was a big fan, and he was thrilled when we got him. So easy to work with, professional.
Yeah, his last movie is listed for 2019. I think he died, I think, January that year. So,
When did
yeah.
you do Angel? Well, Angel was 2000. I can't remember.
Um, Angel says here 1988.
Angel?
Angel of 3, the final chapter.
Gosh, you know, that long ago. I'm
You're way
sure he worked after that.
Yeah, he worked after that. I'm
Mhm.
so glad I got him on the show. He was a wonderful interview guest.
Yeah.
And he always, I can see why Joe Dante worked with him and everything, because he's just, you turn the camera on and he's just a natural, like when Dick Miller's on screen, you're watching Dick Miller,
Well, and he had a big following, and they loved him. So anytime you got to put him in a picture, he didn't have a big enough role in Angel that people would have rushed out to see it, because he wasn't a Dick Miller role per se. But we just wanted to have him in and plus the picture was American International, so.
hmm But I've also interviewed Tony Basil. Of course, I think the greatest music video I ever seen
Oh
was
yeah.
Oh Mickey. What a great video. I was so thrilled. I was pleased as punch when I got her on the show.
Well, I used
And
it twice.
yeah,
He was in Dark Justice, the TV series. So when
hmm
we were doing Angel, I remembered her, and I said, "No, let's get Tony," because so she was thrilled to work again.
yeah, yeah. I got some T-shirts of her that I ordered from her website, and occasionally I send her a text, and because I had her on. I always hated Valentine's Day.
Mhm.
Always hated. Not anymore, because now Valentine's Day represents the day I interviewed Tony Basil. You know, I love that woman. Her videos are so awesome. Not just Mickey, but Nobody was a great video. But she's still going. She can still move.
That was amazing.
Yep. But and you have Maud Adams in this.
Yeah. And Richard Roundtree
Yep.
was good.
Yep. So this is listed as your last feature film. Now, am
Right.
I
I
incorrect?
went on, I
Okay.
went on television, and I pretty much once I got into TV, I liked it a lot because these low budget movies, uh, they won't hire us. You can't be DGA,
Mm,
and because their budgets can't allow. Because if they take a DGA director, they also have to have a DGA for AD and a DGA production coordinator. They have all these rules. And these low budget, because Bruce used to say to me, "I can't hire you anymore because you're DGA." When I went to do Freddy's Nightmare, that's when I had to join the guild because you have to be DJ to do television.
just
And
just to just tell Bruce that he doesn't have to work with you. He can work with Lancer Brooks.
exactly. Well, the argument, they do it on the QT and they use a different name. But if you're ever found out, you lose your DGA membership, and I didn't want to do that. So,
No.
and once I got into television, I really liked the work was much faster. The prep was fast. The work was fast. The pay was much better. Believe it or not, you would think that features pay better, but these low budget pictures, there's always the back end deal that never materializes. They never show a profit. Whereas TV, you get residuals, and I would get checks regularly on residuals and stuff, especially when you get a series because they rerun them and rerun them to death. So, and because I had my background was in porn, when I was shooting those pictures, I had to shoot fast and from the hip because, I was financing them myself and we were shooting on a 3-day schedule a weekend, so when I got in to do these TV series, these episodes, I was able to bring them in fast and under budget and they loved me. So, if I got a series, they'd keep bringing me back. I did 18 Dark Justice. I did Swamp Thing. I did 3 of those and I did 11 Freddy's Nightmare. I mean, so the work was good. It was steady. It was lucrative and I enjoyed it. So Angel was the last feature. Yeah.
So when are you going to sing lead for the band that your brother has?
Well, he doesn't actually have a band now because he just had they would get together to play local clubs, but then COVID, he hasn't played. Of course,
Yeah.
he still practices, still plays, and he goes out every now and then to see a group when he can. But once this is lifted and bars and clubs get open, he'll be back, I'm sure, because it's in him. He's a very good drummer. I must say, he's really good. I not just because he's my brother, but he's good. And he had, in the 70s, he had a group and they did several recordings and they were just on the verge of making it. They opened for the Eagles. Yeah, I think Whiskey a Go-Go. He played whiskey and stuff. Problem was it was a time of drugs and the lead band singer, guitar player succumbed and they lost him and it all fell apart, but they were under contract. He did a couple of albums. They were called country and they were kind of country rock and good. They're all originals. Tom Snow was the composer of most of the songs, and Tom went on to be big, famous now, big composer for, Diana Ross and people like that, Barbra Streisand.
Yeah.
But he still plays, and he gets groups together.
Yeah, I got an autographed picture of him here somewhere. He sent me one in the mail. I had a pleasant chat with him, and
He's fun.
yep, I talk to him every so often on Facebook. I always bring up a scene in Friday 5, because I always picture him, Lana, where the hell could she be? Yeah, he was funny in that movie. I could see him definitely to being a comedian.
Oh yeah, he's very good at stand-up. Yeah.
Yeah,
He was on that show. There used to be a show in the 80s called Make Me Laugh. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
He did a whole week of those or more. Yeah. They'd bring in somebody and he'd have to come out and he'd have like 1 minute to make them laugh or not. So he's got that all. He got copies of the show and he's got all these clips cut together on a reel and it's quite funny.
So are you pretty much retired now, or do you? Okay.
Yeah. I'm writing a memoir, which I've been working on forever, but I'll get it finished one of these days. I don't sit down every day and write like I should,
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm retired. I mean,
have you?
I'm 82, so it's. I don't have the energy. Every now and then I think, boy, I miss that work. I miss people say, yeah. I said, yeah. But, getting up at 4 a.m. and then standing on a concrete floor on a stage for 14 hours, or standing out in the cold at night and stuff like that. And I just don't know that I have the stamina anymore. I do miss it. When I stopped, I thought maybe I shouldn't stop. But it got to the point where a lot of jobs that I thought I should have, they were saying, well, we want somebody more in touch with the audience. And I know what that meant. They want somebody younger, So,
wow.
Yeah. And I thought, well, not going to argue. I mean, there were certain producers in TV that I worked with often. They knew me, they liked me. And whenever they have a show, they would call me, Jeff Freilich and David Calloway and Gene Marum, people like that I worked with a lot, But no, it just got to the point where I was eligible to get my DGA pension and Social Security. And I thought, just take it easy.
Take it easy. Yeah. Have you ever done the convention scene before?
You mean the like con?
Yeah. No. Okay. Because I was going to ask, this is something I know I asked your brother this, but I was going to ask what the most interesting thing you've ever been asked to sign was.
Oh. Well, I've signed posters. I've signed DVD covers. I don't think I've signed anything weird like a bra or a pair of panties or anything like that.
Or a chat.
People always, there was one person who used to send me a 3x5 cards all the time, and I'd sign it to him. And then a month or two later, I get it. And it got to be the point where he was sending them pretty regularly and sometimes 2 or 3 cards. And I finally, I said, look, are you selling these? I mean, I signed, I got, I think people sell them on eBay or something. I don't know. But, and it would always be accompanied by a sob story, like he wouldn't just say, can I have your, I live in a trailer and I don't have this. And I'm a big fan. And my wife, we lost our baby. I mean, it got to be really almost over the top pathetic, and then my wife would like you to sign one too, that kind of stuff, Of course, they never wanted you to personalize it to them,
I
because
like it when they're personalized. I
well,
love
yeah,
it.
but he was obviously just collecting my signature. The first couple of times I sent it to him and his wife, but then just sign your name, that kind of stuff. Okay. I said, you know what? I said, I think I've sent a dozen or more, and I'm kind of done, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
I mean,
I
it probably,
like it when it's personalized, when
yeah,
you find my name on it. So to
mhm.
me, I've got every autograph I've ever collected. I've never sold any. I still got your brothers here, you know. But
I got a
I
guy send me a poster all the way from Amsterdam, a young kid filmmaker, and he's quite prolific. I saw him as stuff online. He liked that picture, Prison Girls, that 3D movie, and I thought of I said, oh please, that movie, Oh yeah, I love it. I have a poster, and he said, I would love for you to sign it. I said, well, if you send it, so he rolled it up in a tube and sent it here, and I signed it and sent it back, And then he sent me a picture of his bedroom with the poster on the wall in the bedroom. You know,
That's awesome.
you find fans anywhere. I mean, what they like, it always surprises me.
Yeah. No, I think it's fantastic, So yeah, no, I keep all my autographs and I like them personalized personally. I actually told one of my guests that I'm close friends with, I said, here's what you do, you personalize them because if you're worried about people selling them, personalize them, you know.
Also, I think it means more if you have an autograph that was for you personally, rather than
Yeah, I think so.
you could walk
Yeah.
up to anybody coming out of a restaurant and get their signature. But if somebody signs it to you, it makes it the connection is a little more believable and a little personal.
Yeah, I know I've got some Blu-rays here. I'm not looking at any right off the front, but that were personalized to me, and it just it's special, it's
The
to
problem I
me.
have with Hell Night poster is it's all black. That original Hell Night poster. There was no
Hmm.
place on it to sign it. Well, I got one of those pens that signs in silver.
Yeah, those are great.
Yeah, and that was yeah. But I mean, that picture of her hanging on the gate, the background is all black. Her dress is dark, and then there's really no good place to sign on that, which is a problem. And that's the one I mostly get requests for.
This is a nice
That's a new one. That was for the Blu-ray.
yeah,
I like that. Yeah.
yep, I like it when I see those. Yeah.
The original one is her on the gate. It's
Yeah,
all
I know. Yeah. Yeah. No, are you still in touch with Linda Blair?
not. I wouldn't say in touch. No, I recently sent her on Facebook because there's a book being written all about my career from a German publisher, big, uh, loaded with pictures and interviews and all that kind of stuff. And he's been trying to get the cast that I work with, so I had to make a request for her to. He wanted to interview her for the book, so I put them in touch, and that was it. But
Okay.
he interviewed Sybil Danning and Barbara Luna and a couple of cast members that I worked. I worked in Mexico for a year doing a soap opera down there, and then also some of the kids from Reform School Girls. I think I can't remember.
Okay.
So, but I just said, hey, how you doing? Nice to talk to you. And this guy wants to call you for an interview, that kind of stuff. But
Okay. You got any charities that you want to plug and promote on here?
I don't actually.
Not even your brother's band? That could be a charity.
Well, he doesn't actually have a band. He doesn't have a band. Yeah.
You know what I mean.
Yeah.
He could be the one man band.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I loved having you on here today.
That's
Yeah. Well, I knew the Hell Night was going to be celebrating its 40th anniversary. I can't believe 40 years.
that really surprised. I hadn't thought of it that way, but yeah. And that
Yeah.
that came out last year or 2020, didn't it? The Blu-ray, I think.
I
Now,
think so. Yeah.
Blu-ray coming out supposed to have been out in April of Reform School Girls, a company in Germany, And I did a filmed interview, and I sent them pictures, and I'm still waiting. What happened was the COVID slowed everything down.
Yeah.
You know, they stopped because it was bad over in Germany. And I remember emailing them, what's going on? Where's the, he said, well, we're not doing anything right now. Everything's shut down. So last time I spoke to them, I think he said in April it would be ready. So I'm anxious to see that. So.
Yeah. Well,
So
this was
I
a
hate,
great.
I hate to cut this short, but I need
Yeah,
to.
I know. I'm about to wrap her up now because last thing we need is them tearing your wall down.
Start ripping down the wall behind me, but
Before I let you go, Tom, would you mind doing a plug for my show?
of course not.
Yeah, just say your name, that we're celebrating the 40th anniversary of Hell Night, and say you're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise.
Python's Paradise.
Yeah, that's my show. Yep. You ready?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Hi, this is Tom DeSimone, and I wanted to let you know that Greg, let's go over.
Go for it.
Greg Gilbert. I'm gonna have to write it down because.
Go for it. Yeah. We're going to do take 2. Hell Night celebrating its 40th anniversary. So happy to have Tom, the director, on the show here and talk about this film. And yeah,
It's
there, yeah, Greg Gilbert is in Python's Paradise, and
that's what threw me.
yeah. I'm a big snake lover, so I just go by the name Python as my DJ name. So it's Python's Paradise. I got the Paradise part, I think, from Phantom of the Paradise, De Palma film. Yeah.
Do we say tune in? Is that
Sure. Sure, if you'd like to. Yep. Yeah.
okay? Let me run this by. Can I say hi? This is Tom DeSimone. I'm talking to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise, and we're celebrating the 40th anniversary of my film Hell Night.
Yeah.
So tune in and listen, or tune in.
Yeah.
And be informed. Okay.
Okay. You ready?
I hope so. Okay. Where do I
Go
look?
for it.
Where do I
Right
look?
there. Yeah, right there.
Hi, this is Tom DeSimone, and I'm talking to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise, and we're celebrating the 40th anniversary of my film Hell Night. So tune in and listen and have a good time.
Absolutely. Well, I hope they don't tear your house up too much today.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks, putting in a whole new thing, and I'm dreading it, but it has to be done. I reached out. So
Yeah.
thank you, Greg. And,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And when you see your brother, tell him hello.
I'll be talking to him. I think they may be coming down this weekend. I'm not sure. So anyway.
Well, you're both very pleasant. So I had a great time with both of you. So absolutely.
I know. All right.
All right. You take care. God bless. And you have yourself a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Absolutely.